All right, welcome to Yanko Africa. My name is Ama. I want to welcome each and every one of you, be it new subscribers, old subscribers, you're all welcome. I thank each and every one of you for tuning in. And guys, please remember that the channel is shadow banned, meaning that you may or may not receive notification. The channel's not being circulated like it should, so you have to check back for updates. Also check the community page if you're interested in some of the things that I am doing or planning. Please make sure that you check the community page, okay? About a month ago, I put this post up for those who may be interested in a conference in person in Ghana, all right, where you would come personally to a location in Ghana and hear from experts on how to appropriately purchase land to avoid the Wahala that we are speaking about today. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the land Wahala going on in Cape Coast. And let me first state that none of us know fully who is right or wrong yet for the entire situation. In fact, I personally believe, this is my personal opinion, that both sides are wrong in various ways. Okay, both sides were wrong. All right, now, based on the information that can be proven, I will give you information and then I will provide you with the appropriate processes and so on and so forth according to Ghana Constitution. Okay, all right, but I want to talk to us today, and I want us to be people who are willing to accept the truth and who will be wise before we speak. The scripture says that he who judges a matter or speaks on a matter, let's read it from Proverbs 18, all right? Verse 13, it says, he who answers a matter before he hears it, this is folly and disgrace to him. So to answer definitively, this is how it's done, this is what is what, before you hear the whole matter, it's not wise. In fact, it says it's foolishness and it is a disgrace to the one who does such a thing, okay? Secondly, it also goes on to say in verse 17, the first to state his case seems right? Until another comes and cross-examines him. Let's think about that. The first to state his case is right until another comes and cross-examines him. And that's not just the first, but each side that states their case can seem right until someone else comes and cross-examines that statement. So let us be wise before speaking. And then those of us who are hearing, those who are speaking, even myself, verse 15 speaks to us, and it says, the heart of discerning acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks it out. All right. So let our hearts be discerning to acquire knowledge, receive those things like the Bereans. They were willing to receive those things that were shared with them. But the scripture says they were wiser than the others because they went home and they searched the scriptures to see if those things that they heard, if they were true. So let us take some steps before we jump on a bandwagon because of our personal preferences and biases. And we all have them. So let me start by stating my bias when it comes to Africa. Because from what I'm seeing, there are two sides that are, disputing over what is what. And if you carefully listen and watch those who are speaking and stating their opinions, really they stand on two separate sides when it comes to Africa. Should those who are Israelites or the children of Yah disperse to the four corners of the earth, should we be going to Africa or should we stay in our various countries? That's what the root of all of this is about. Those on the African continent who are not aware of this or other places may not know that that's the root, but I'm telling you right now, the root of it is a dispute as to whether or not we who have been dispersed, Israelites, who have been dispersed through the transatlantic slave trade to the four corners of the earth, as it has been prophesied, should we be returning to the African continent or not? That's what the real matter is. And those who have their personal biases to stay where they are, because they do have personal biases, it's obvious. It can be proven. Your actions show your bias. Your words may say America is Babylon or Europe is Babylon or this, that, and the other. But if I really thought America was Babylon, the scripture says, get out of Babylon, flee. Save yourself, it says, okay? Babylon, true mystery Babylon, I've taught on it on my other channel. You can go and listen to it. Is not America. America is under the Babylonian system. It is also operating under the spirit of Egypt. But true biblical Babylon, you can see, is your brother that doesn't look like you anymore, those Edomites of Saudi Arabia and surrounding areas. But that's another lesson. All right, let's talk about this. In my personal bias, let me state this, my personal bias precedes even knowing that I was an Israelite, okay, and that we who have been dispersed are Israelites. I have been coming to the continent for for 20 years, starting this year, or from this year back 20 years. Let me say, not starting this year, from the 2023. The first time I came to the continent was 2003. Okay, so for 20 years, all right, my preference has been to come to the continent. Actually, prior to that, I spoke for years that I was going to Africa. So much my family at first laughed at me, like, who do you know from Africa? We haven't been to Africa since we stepped off the boat, our ancestors. But then after some years, they saw that I was serious, and here I am. All right. And so I thank y'all for that. But let's talk about the issue of the land. Okay. Who is wrong? Both sides are wrong based on the little bit of information we have. From what we've been told, that we're going to get an official statement from the government, okay, concerning what happened. Now, just in case you do not know what happened, this woman, and we appreciate her. Some people out there are trying to silence her, but she did a video of the land in Cape Coast that was lived on, and a business, a vegan restaurant, I think, in a spa that was ran on that property by some Israelites, black people who are Israelites. All right, we are the Israelites, not just Israelis. They were living on that land, and it was demolished. It appears from what they state that the people came, unawares, and just started demolishing their property, and that they had lived there for 24 years, and that they had a 50-year lease. Okay, now this is what they're stating. Now, according to the statement made also, is that they were supposed to renegotiate on year 49. Okay, however, the opposing side, based on a statement made by this person known as Simpson, who lives in Cape Coast, he says that he has seen and spoken to people that have a statement or a letter or document that states that the negotiation was supposed to take place at year 24. Okay. Now, in this video, which I am not going to play, you can go back and listen to it. He says that the land was acquired in the 1970s by one Mr. Short. Okay, let me get his information. Mr. Short. Okay, this is Emile Short, who is now someone who is well known in Ghana. He's worked for humanitarian efforts and so on and so forth to protect human rights. He's a lawyer by trade, but he opened up a nightclub, he said, on that spot, and that he ran that nightclub for a number of years. But I also read another statement by someone who says that the nightclub began to dwindle in the 1970s. All right, around 1977 to 1979, it was the height, but after that, it started to dwindle because of the number of political climates in the political climate in the country, and curfews that were set, and so people could not come to the nightclub, basically. So in 1980, I also found a document showing, which Echo states in his video, that another organization came there that was supposed to bring about using natural African products to develop the area and to promote the use of African products to save the environment and to export and so on and so forth, right? And so this man, Mr. Kofi Sam, started on that site as well. It looks like in 1980, the statement says. In 1980, honoring this resolution, he stayed in Cape Coast, and in 1980 established the Appropriate Technology Center. So in this video, Echo goes through and he gives a timeline. He says in the 70s, the government rented it to this lawyer Mr. Short, he ran it as a club called Club Cupid. And then after that, when the club could no longer, function as it had been functioning before, they closed down. And then new occupants came in, the AproTech, right? And this statement showed that I just showed that they opened up in the 1980s. Now, my question is, and I do have a question because we do not know, was there a new lease issued? Okay, the lease that the government gave Mr. Short in the 70s, was there a new lease issued for the AproTech and for the Israelites that came in, according to Echo in this statement, in the 1999, he said in 1999. However, he goes on to state that there was a document from 1996, a lease from 1996, detailing what was owed and what should have been paid. So there's some discrepancy there. There's a lease from 1996, but he said they moved and acquired the land in 1999. So perhaps they acquired the land in 1996 and then didn't move on it until 1999, which would line up with the Israelites' statement that he has been living there. They have been living there for 24 years. All right, but if they acquired it in 1996, it would be their land. So there's a question about this document that's 1996. Is this a real document? Is this something, a true account, or is this lease for someone else, or the people that are now there? Did they have a lease? So my question, once again, is who was the lease between the government of Ghana and Mr. Short? And did they just pass down this lease? Or did they give each new party a lease? Because based on the history of what he said, there should have been 3 new leases. There should have been a lease for Mr. Short. And then when he no longer occupied the place, there should have been a lease for AproTech. And when they no longer occupied the place, there should have been a lease for the BIS, or the Israelites that moved there. There should have been a lease for them, and the previous 2 lease agreements should have been null and void, done away with. Okay, but if Mr. Short, the original owner who had that lease that the government gave him in the 1970s, and this is why I have the class on how to properly purchase land and avoid some of these pitfalls. You may still face some, but you will learn a lot. Okay, and so what I'm saying is, if the original lease was with Mr. Short and then he resold it and basically passed it down, the government of Ghana is going to go with the only lease that they have, which is the original lease, the one signed in the 1970s. It does not matter if someone else passed it down and gave you a piece of paper. The original lease on that land would be for 50 years if that's what the agreement was with the government. Because remember, this is government land, and only the government has the authority to change the terms of that lease. So that's something that should be looked into. Secondly, a mistake that the Israelites made is staying on land for 24 years without registering that land with the Lands Commission. Okay? That's what they did wrong in this situation. At least one of the things that they did wrong. I don't even know. Now, there's an accusation out there that they didn't pay. We have no evidence that they did not pay the full balance. We have no terms. We haven't seen any. So I'm not going to make a judgment on that. I will only say if that is the case, then that would be another mistake. But we have no proof of that. And I find it hard to believe that. He also states that they met for negotiations to renegotiate. He says in this video that there was an agreement to renegotiate the deal at year 25, and that they came together and decided not to renew it. Who's going to live on the land for 24 years and not try to continue to own it, especially since they were still operating a business, they were still living there, and clearly in the video that we see, they were not prepared for these people coming. So you mean to tell me they went to a meeting and they said, no, we're not going to renew our lease. No, we're not going to do that. And so they just sat there. No, I don't believe that one bit. That part of the story is not accurate. Okay, so I wanted to just say that portion. Now, what does the law say when it comes? Let's just say they have been duly served. They told them, or they knew that they had to get off the land. They know that, not duly served. They know that they have to get off the land. They know they didn't pay the money. They know the land is not registered to them. They knew that the property was expiring and that there was no negotiation, so on and so forth. I don't believe, my personal bias is that I don't believe that they knew that they were going to have their homes demolished. I don't believe that they really believed that their home and their livelihood was in jeopardy. Okay, if they did, that's another mistake. So let me be clear. The mistake they made was not getting proper documentation. Okay, that's a mistake that they made, clearly. All right, another mistake that they made is not knowing the law when it comes to land leases, if Mr. Short is the original lease land agreement owner. But if they have an agreement with the government of Ghana, then the Israelites are not at fault. They have an official lease and they are not at fault. If it says 50 years and they need to renegotiate, then there should have been some renegotiation. What happened during that meeting, if there was a meeting, none of us know. We will have to hear both sides before we judge that matter. All right, so let's say they were at fault, though. Let's just assume they were at fault. Okay, let's go with that, since that's the argument of the other side. Okay, the argument of the other side is that the Israelites were wrong. They didn't pay us what they owe us, and so we're coming for our land. Okay, what is the process for coming for your land in Ghana? Well, according to the Ghana Constitution, if land is to be taken back and acquired by the government, there are steps to take, what we call eminent domain in America. It does exist in other countries as well, but don't expect them to do and process things the same way that we do. Reading this right here, which is a research paper based on the Constitution, all right? You can go ahead and find these things in the Constitution itself, but these are outlined and they copy the points from the Constitution. All right, and the articles where you can find it in the Constitution, Article 295 of the Constitution, and so on and so forth, right? It says the process of compulsory acquisition. Now, this is when the government says we need the land, all right? And we need it for the purposes that we want the land for, all right? Now, if they did lease the land to the Israelites there and they came back and said, we need the land, we want it back because you breached the contract, what is the process? The first process is that the present owners of the land must be given first choice in acquiring the land. Before you take the land for your use, or if you don't have a use for it, before you take the land and sell it to someone else, you have to make the current tenant give them the first option of purchasing that land. Similar to in America, where we say possession is 9/10 of the law. Okay, you are given first option just by dwelling in that house. That's why you got to watch squatters in your house in America. You can't just put squatters out who have been staying there for a while. So you have to be careful with that. This is similar. So if they're calling them squatters and saying that they don't have the right to be on that land, they have to be given first choice to purchase the land. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, reading down here, it says the most important part of the acquisition process is the serving of notices of the acquisition. Copies of the executive instrument are required by law to be served as follows. And if you read this, you'll see that the decision making of taking the land doesn't even, the owner of the person living on the land doesn't even get notified until the decision has already been made to take the land. That's Ghana's law. So don't expect them to process eminent domain the same way we do in America. All right. So the most important part of acquisition process is the serving of notices of the acquisition. Copies of the executive instrument are required by law to be served as follows. Okay. And this is the process. First thing that the Ghana government should have done, whether the Israelites were there, whether they owe them money or not, whether they are wrong or right, whether the lease is expired, whether the negotiation failed or not, the first thing they should have done is personally serve any person having an interest in the land, or left with, the notice should have been left with any person in occupation of the land, that means even squatters, and C, served on the traditional authority of the area of acquisition, which shall request the chief to notify the people of the area concerned. So that means that the first thing that the Ghana government should have done was to notify those persons who have personal interest in the land, those who bought it, with legal notice. All right, they should have been served. Second, anybody on the land who is living on the land should have been served. So if that's a tenant or a squatter, they should have been served with that copy. And then the traditional authorities, the chief was supposed to be served of actions that would be taking place so he could know. And he has the responsibility of making the tenants of that place know that, hey, were you aware that you are going to be served? Were you aware that you were going to be sacked or removed from this place? That was the responsibility of the chief. Did the chief come out to talk to them? It doesn't sound like it. They said they didn't know anything about it. So these are the first three things that we seemingly did not take place according to their word, but we do not know for sure. Okay, we will find out. And if the opposing side says that they have done that, they will present that evidence. D, then they should have affixed at a convenient place on the land a notice. Now, according to this woman's video, there was nothing there. If there was a notice affixed on the land, she would have recorded it. And for those who want her to be quiet, you be quiet, because she's doing the right thing. She is making it known she did not do anything wrong. Some say it's COINTELPRO. Believe me, I know COINTELPRO. It exists in Ghana. All right. And for those of us who have been targeted by COINTELPRO in the U.S. and around the world, we know they exist. And whether she's COINTELPRO or not, in this situation, she has done a good thing by making this issue known, because it's going to work for their good if the law is carried out the way it should. Okay, now back to the steps that should have been taken. All right, so they should have affixed a notice on the land. There should have been a billboard, a signpost notifying everybody, just like they do in the U.S., if land has been acquired, has been repossessed, stating the date that you should leave. Similar to here in Ghana, if you are in Accra, for example, you'll see them come and spray in big red paint, removed by AMA. They'll put a date up there, so on and so forth. I saw one the other day near Lakeside that says, removed by whatever road for road use. All right, they're building the road, so this big beautiful house, they're going to knock down that big beautiful house that somebody has taken the time to build to bring the road. All right, who knows what went on there? All right, now in E, it says published or on 3 consecutive occasions in a newspaper circulating in the district where the land is situated, and in such other manner as the minister may direct. Meaning that there should have been a public notice in the public newspapers on 3 consecutive occasions, letting them know that, hey, we are coming for this land, you are being dispossessed, and this is the notice, official notice of the government. Doesn't sound, based on their story, that this has happened, any of these things. All right, so it is only after the instrument has been published and that the affected owners can submit claims for compensation. The entire process is long and winding and sometimes takes up to 2 years or more to complete. So this is a bridge explanation of the process on how to dispossess someone from the land, if the land is needed or if it's being reclaimed by the government. And this is according to the Article 295 of the Ghana Constitution. And I'm sure that there's other segments in there for cases such as this. Okay, any agreements with the government that have been breached, the process of repossessing that land is basically the same. So was there wrong done on each side? Yes. Do we know fully who is in total violation or who is at fault for what happened? We don't know. We don't know who is at fault for what happened because we don't know the full story. One says they don't, that they didn't have to pay anything and until year 49. Another says no, you had to pay something in year 24. One says that no, we negotiated and we met, but we didn't agree, and so we were coming for the land. The other says that they were never told anything and they're not even up for renewal now. Okay, so in that area we don't know who is telling the truth. We will find out. But as far as procedure goes, the Ghana government did not follow procedure for dispossessing them of that land. They are in total violation of the Ghana Constitution as far as dispossessing them. What our brothers did, if it is true, is that in 24 years, And I think they stated that in another video, that they did not register that land. Not registering the land, knowing the climate in Ghana is not wise, my brothers and sisters. I hate to point, the finger and the eye, but I'm just saying it is not wise. It is not wise. You know that. So I would advise people to educate themselves. If you're interested, I'm not doing this for registering my class. You don't have to. Just study. The information is out there. I even have a free playlist on my website where you can, on this channel, where you can go and watch these things for free. Don't even register to my class if you think it's about money. It's about getting information to you so that we can avoid these kind of incidents. All right. So judging the full matter, we cannot do because we don't have the full facts. Was it wrong for them to steal your stuff? Yes, it is wrong to steal someone's stuff, but will they come back and say that they took those items as collateral for payment owed? We don't know. Does the law constitution allow them to take your items to pay something that is owed? We don't know. We don't have the lease. We don't have the agreement. We don't know if that was a part of the agreement in the indenture. Okay. Many people sign an indenture and think that that's a deed. That's not a deed. Indenture is nothing. Indenture is nothing. So when I see people doing videos, oh, I got my indenture, I just hold my head, and I'll just shake my head. What is an indenture? It's nothing. Nothing. Indenture means absolutely nothing. Okay. So guys, be wise, be smart, and be patient. All right. Don't rush to judgment. Don't make a fool out of yourself, and state your biases. My bias is I'm very happy to be on the continent. I'm very happy to also be going back and forth to America when I do. All right. But my ultimate decision is to be on the continent. Will it be Ghana permanently? I'm not saying that. All right. I have other countries that I want to visit, and other countries that I love. I absolutely love Togo. So for those of you who are wondering, am I going back to Togo? By the grace of Yah, I will be. All right. But until then, we'll discuss that another time. But you guys, just be wise. All right. And don't let your personal preferences get in the way of making sound judgments. All right. So thank you. And thanks for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. Shalom.